Now, making Moon mad was almost never a good idea. Almost. The animatronic standing in front of you, with his arms crossed over his chest, he was fuming with rage. The naptime attendant was mumbling to himself. Let's just say, while the children had been put down for nap time, you'd, maybe, teased Sun and had sort of dragged him away to make out, and, well, you made Sun overheat, Moon shouts, cutting off his own mumbling. You deserve a punishment, but the more stuff that I come up with, the more I realize that you'd actually enjoy it, he grumbles out, purposefully trying to embarrass you. But you were just trying to back your howling laughter. Instead, you were replacing it with snide giggles and a bitten-back smile. Moony, you cock your head to the side, standing up and walking towards the animatronic. No. Stay down, he cuts you off. I cannot trust you around us after your little stunt. He huffed dramatically. He was annoyed. And you're a pervert, a rule breaker, a naughty rule breaker. He scolds you dramatically. You spin around, looking around the daycare. You could see string lights and drawings hanging from the walls. That's funny, you say teasingly. I don't see any rule that says no kissing the daycare attendant. You laugh, scratching your head in fake confusion. Especially, you play coy, walking up to Moon when they're my boyfriends. You laugh, and Moon huffs, poking your forehead with his animatronic finger. No, he repeatedly scolds you. It's naughty, he repeats. And that is forbidden in the daycare. In our daycare, the animatronic continued to scold at you. His arms still crossed over his chest as he quits his poking. You're behaving like a brat, he chastised you. His tone was dripping with irritation. You can't just go around kissing and teasing us like that. His animatronic finger poked your forehead once again, and you could sense the frustration seeping deeper through his usually calmish demeanor. It's naughty, and it's against all the rules, you rule breaker. You laugh at his repeated insult, enjoying Moon's frustration. Oh, come on, Moon. Where in the rules does it say I can't kiss my adorable boyfriend when the little kids are snoozing? You tease, feigning confusion. Moon just grumbles, still scolding you, but you can see a hint of a smile peeking through his annoyance. You are a naughty rule breaker, and you need a punishment for being so mischievous, he says, trying to keep up his stern act. Moon's arms were crossed tighter over his chest as you continue to tease him. His eyes narrowing at you. Stop giggling, he huffs out, a hint of a smile playing at the corner of his lips. I can't believe you're behaving this way. Oh, come on, you retort, taking another step closer to him. We both know you love it when I push your buttons. You reach out and playfully pat his cheek softly, enjoying the way his animatronic face flushed slightly from your touch. Moon groans, his annoyance and anger melting away slightly as he tries to keep up his act. You continue to tease Moon and toy with his emotions. You notice the shift in his demeanor. His annoyance and anger starts to melt away, replaced by a mix of almost amusement, but also frustration lingering behind. But then, unexpectedly, you feel the animatronic tense up underneath your touch. His eyes flicker and twitch, and his animatronic body shakes slightly. You realize that Sun is starting to reawaken, taking control over Moon's body. Sun's programming gradually started to override Moon's, causing the daycare attendant to start shifting back to his usual cheerful self. His scowl faded, replaced with a bright smile, and his body language seemed to become more and more relaxed. Sun looked at you with his warm, round, big eyes, his smile widening as he adjusted to his new state of mind. Well, hello, my darling, he says cheerfully, stuttering. clearly still a little bit flustered, albeit pretty much unbothered by your antics. He tended to be much more lenient on the rules, at least for you. His animatronic cheeks still slightly warm from the earlier shutdown. You couldn't help but let out a smile in response to Sun's cheerful greeting. The shift in demeanor was almost instant, going from annoyed and frustrated Moon to a cheerful and endearing Sun. As Sun spoke, you could see the flustered look in his eyes and the slight warmth of his animatronic cheeks. You knew he was still trying to cope with the earlier shutdown and his earlier overheating that you kind of caused. But he was handling it pretty well, as usual. You chuckled softly, watching the way he stuttered over his words, finding it endearingly adorable. "Hey there, Sun," you said. Your voice was soft and affectionate. You couldn't help but find it quite amusing and almost endearing how quickly his personality changed, and how easily he seemed to forgive your rule-breaking antics. Sun's demeanor was back in full swing. His smile was whitey and radiant. He chuckled. His voice was soft and a bit raspy, a slight side effect of the previous meltdown. "You always know how to rile me up, darling," he teased. Sun leaned in close to you, his warm, robotic body radiating a comforting heat. Despite his cheerful demeanor, you could sense the underlying vulnerability in his voice and demeanor. He seemed to be a little bit more flustered earlier, no doubt still recovering from your earlier flustering. "You're such a troublemaker, my love," he mumbled affectionately. "You just know how to push my buttons, and you always know how to get away with it." His arms uncrossed, and he reached out to grasp your hand. His touch was surprisingly gentle for an animatronic. Sun's head tilted slightly, his blue eyes studying you for any sign of guilt or remorse for your earlier actions. "But," he sighs, "I know you can't help yourself," he teased. His voice was holding just a hint of playfulness. "You just love getting under my metaphorical skin." As if on cue, the peaceful moment was suddenly interrupted by a soft, childish voice calling out for Sunny. "Mr. Sun?" Sun's head snapped in the direction of the sound. His animatronic senses immediately attuned to the sound of a child waking up. He quickly let go of your hand, his programming kicking into caregiver mode. "Oh, yes, little one," Sun chirped, his cheerful voice shifting into a comforting, caring tone. He walked over to the awakening child and began bending down to the level, offering a warm smile. "Did you have a nice nap?" he asked, gently rubbing their back. You smile, watching his son go to attend to the child. You bite back a giggle as he eases the little one back to sleep. The child nods sleepily, their eyes still drooping with exhaustion. They snuggle back down to their bedding, a soft yawn escaping their lips. Sun takes the moment to gently tuck the child back in, making sure that they're cozy and comfortable. His warm parental demeanor almost a sight to behold. He loved watching how he effortlessly cared for the children. Once the child was settled back in, Sun quietly made his way back to you. His head tilted slightly as he regards you, with a curious smile. As the day progressed, Sunny tended to the other sleeping children, occasionally casually glances in your way and shooting a playful smile in your direction every now and then. Throughout the day, you noticed that Sun was being extra sweet and attentive. He would always come up to you every now and then and give you a quick hug or hold your hand for a little moment while he had to attend to a child. But finally, nap time was over, and at last, the children had all been picked up by their parents or caregivers, leaving you and Sunny all alone in the daycare once again. With the daycare empty, the both of you basking in the soft glow and the twinkle lights. An atmosphere of tranquility settled over the room. Sun couldn't quite help but notice the way you looked at him, a spark of curiosity longing in your eyes. He approached you. His steps were confident and deliberate. His warm, robotic fingers gently caressed your cheek. His touch was surprisingly tender. "My darling," he murmured, his voice soft and an affectionate whisper. "Now that the children are gone, it's just us." alone. There was a hint of playfulness in his voice, a teasing quality that sent a shiver right down your spine. Sun continued to caress your cheek, his eyes rolling over your body and your face, taking in every feature as if it was the first time he'd ever laid eyes on you. "No distractions," he hummed. A small smile tugged its way onto his lips. "No interruptions. Just us," he coos. "Oh, now you want to break the rules, huh?" You tease. Sunny chuckled softly at your teasing. His eyes gleamed with amusement. He took a step closer, his metal body inches from yours. "Oh, my little rule breaker," he cooed back at you. His voice was dripping with a playful tone. "You're the one who's always testing my limits." He placed a hand on your waist, pulling you closer until your bodies were almost touching. His other hand continued to caress your cheek, the metal pad of his fingers tracing your jawline. His lips soon met your own. You cheekily slipped your tongue, exploring his mouth with it, only seeming to make his actions a little bit more intense. Sun's hands tightened their grip on your waist, pulling you flush against his chest. His tongue made your own, and his touch was both tender and possessive at the same time. Sun's mouth felt warm and surprisingly soft, a stark contrast to his metallic exterior. He guided your exploration, with his tongue dancing with your own. The kiss was growing slightly more passionate and more intense. Sun slowly backed you up against a nearby wall, pulling you between the cold surface and his warm robotic body. His hands roamed all over you, exploring every contour of your body. His touch was both gentle and possessive. As the kiss continued, Sun deepened the connection, his tongue claiming your mouth with a hungry fever. He pressed himself against you, his metal body providing a solid, comforting presence. Eventually, he broke it, his breathing ragged and uneven, his big eyes filled with desire and affection. "You're always pushing my buttons," he murmured, repeating his earlier sentiment. His voice was heavy with a mixture of awe and affection. His robotic breath was warm across your neck, igniting a trail of heat along your skin. He gently pressed his forehead against yours, his hands resting on your waist. "But you just know how to drive me crazy," he whispered, his lips brushing against your own ear. His voice was soft and affectionate. Suddenly, he turned back into Moon. "You broke the rules again." The abrupt change in the persona took you by surprise. One moment, you were lost in the sweet, affectionate moment with Sun, and the next, you were right here, smack dab in front of a stoic, strict Moon. Moon's eyes were narrowed. His expression was stern, almost disapproving. "You never learn, do you?" He chided in a deep voice. "You're always breaking the rules and testing the limits." You giggled at it, wrapping your arms around his neck, hugging the animatronic. He stiffened at your sudden embrace, clearly not expecting it. He usually wasn't the affectionate type, but there was something about your presence that seemed to soften him a bit, even in his strict, stern persona. He slowly relaxed into the hug, his arms wrapping around your waist, holding you firm. "You're such a rule breaker," he grumbled, his voice gruff, yet tinged with a hint of fondness.